There are few tales more perilous to recount than that of Vlaakith, the 157th of her name. Eternal Queen, Lich Undying, she shattered her people's freedom and reforged it into chains anew. From her throne of bones in Tunarath, salvation became tyranny. Rebellion turned to reign everlasting. Hers is the tragedy of a people who rose from bondage, only to kneel before their Queen Eternal. But to understand Vlaakith's reign, we must return to its beginning. Long before her throne, long before her lichdom, the Gith themselves knew only chains. For uncounted generations, they lived as thralls beneath the Illithid Empire, a dominion so vast it spanned countless worlds and planes alike. The astral trembled beneath their fleets, the prime quaked under their yoke. So complete was their conquest that the blood war itself briefly faltered, as fiends wondered whether the Mind Flayer's reach would soon touch their own realms. The Illithids reshaped everything they enslaved. Bodies twisted, spirits hollowed, flesh bent to alien purpose. The ancestors of the Gith were no exception. Their minds were carved until nothing remained but obedience. At least, that's what the Mind Flayers believed. From the silence of despair, a voice rose. Gith, a warrior ablaze with fury who bound her people into an army of steel and thought. With discipline, with psionics, she turned thralls into soldiers, slaves into liberators, and when the moment came, they struck. The rebellion shattered the Illithid dominion, leaving broken citadels adrift across the plains. Yet, as history so often teaches us, liberation is but the first act of tyranny's play. In victory and liberation, the Gith faced a question more perilous than any Mind Flayer. Who would they become? Gith herself spoke only of conquest, of purging weakness, of empire without end. Yet one among her lieutenants, Zerthamon, saw a shadow in her words. He warned that the fire which burned away the Illithids might also consume them. Their conflict split the Gith forever. Those who followed Gith became Githyanki, fierce, unyielding, hungry for conquest. Those who followed Zerthamon became the Githzerai, seekers of discipline, balance, and survival apart from tyranny. Brother turned against brother, sister against sister. The victors of the rebellion became divided heirs of a broken destiny. And yet, even division was not their final tragedy. For where Gith's fire had burned too hot, her advisor Vlaakith stepped forward. And from her hands, the chains would never be broken again. Vlaakith I was no warrior queen. She was the voice at Gith's side, whispering counsel, weaving alliances, and waiting for her moment. When the revolution was won and the Gith stood divided, it was Vlaakith who urged that their strength be bound to greater powers. The Githyanki remained vulnerable. Their unity was fractured, their enemies many. Vlaakith saw what they needed, not freedom, but control. So, she turned to Tiamat, Queen of Dragons. By Vlaakith's counsel, Gith herself walked into the Dragon Queen's court in the Nine Hells, and was never seen again. What passed between them remains a mystery, a bargain, a sacrifice, or perhaps even a betrayal. But when the dust settled, it was not Gith who returned to her people. It was Vlaakith who claimed the crown. Through Tiamat's consort, the ancient red dragon Ephelamon, a pact was declared. Gith's mantle had passed, and the Githyanki were bound in eternal alliance with the red dragons. From that day, the astral was filled with dragon fire. The pact became their terror, their symbol, their strength. Vlaakith had watched the rebellion, the schism, and the uncertainty that followed, and in that she saw not ruin, but opportunity. A people yearning for strength, an empire waiting for a hand to guide it. Hers. But Vlaakith's hand was not hers alone. The name Vlaakith did not die with its first queen. It became a mantle, passed from heir to heir, each cloaked in the same title, the same authority. For generations, the Githyanki bent the knee to a succession of Vlaakiths, a dynasty carried forward by blood and ambition. Yet the cycle was finite. Queens ruled and queens died. until the 157th to bear the name. Her reign would break that cycle. Vlaakith the 157th refused the silence of death. She reached past the grave, seizing a power no queen before her dared embrace. When her mortal body failed, she returned as something eternal, a lich. The first and the last Vlaakith, unending, the throne hers alone, never again to be relinquished. Vlaakith's court rose in Tu'narath, a city carved into the bones of a dead god adrift in the astral sea. There, dragonfire roared above, and the pact with the Felamon endured. Githyanki dragon riders became terror across the plains, red-scaled destruction bearing their queen's mark. But Vlaakith's eternity was not rule alone. It was hunger. She consumed the power of her own people, draining every Githyanki who rose to her notice. No hero was allowed to rival her. No champion permitted to eclipse her reign. In secret, she devoured their souls, hoarding might as if even eternity could be threatened. To preserve her dominion, she forged horrors. From consumed champions, she created the Ta'akith, spectral warriors bound in unending loyalty. From devoured arcanists, the Kree Izath, emaciated undead mages wreathed in black fire. And from fire and dragonblood, the Duthka Gith, half-dragon abominations forged for conquest. Each was meant as a weapon, yet each revealed her fear, every action devoted to the preservation of her throne. This is the curse of immortality. It twists creation into chains. What could have been a dynasty became a mausoleum of her own design. Thus Vlaakith, the eternal Lich Queen, reigned in terror and tolerated only absolute devotion. Not as the liberator Gith had once promised, but as the monarch who chained her people once more. In fear, in fire, in undeath. Symbols of her reign spread across Tu'narath, the Palace of Whispers, the Throne of Bones, Chirai inquisitors who scoured the city in her name. The scepter of a Felamon bound the might of red dragons to her command. The crown of corruption turned her strongest knights into shadows bound to her will. But Vlaakith was not content with eternal monarchy. No, she craved something more, apotheosis. Beneath Tu'narath lay the corpse of a dead god, known only as the One in the Void. Dead, but not silent. Vlaakith believed it still carried a spark of divinity, and for centuries she sought to claim it. Her will bent toward that single obsession, to rise beyond lichdom, to seize a throne among the divine. Vlaakith poured thousands of wish spells into her pursuit, but lichdom did not spare her from the cost. Every wish demanded sacrifice. To recover what the spell consumed, she fed. Servants, champions, even trespassers were devoured, their life sparks ground down to ash and drawn into her hunger. This cycle repeated for centuries. A wish cast, a soul consumed, a ritual renewed, a rival extinguished. And so she consumed her people, not only to preserve her reign, but to fuel her impossible ascension. The astral trembled with the strain. Some whispered the gods stirred beneath Tu'narath's foundations. Others whispered Vlaakith had gone mad, casting her people into the abyss for a dream that could never be. Her empire, once unified in fire and dragonflight, turned inward. Suspicion, rebellion, heresy. Radicals sought to reunite the Gith. Warlords rose against her, but Vlaakith unleashed inquisitors and fanatics to scour every shadow. Her throne remained secure, even as her people withered. Vlaakith's reign stretched across centuries into millennia, a tyranny without end. Tu'narath itself became her monument, a fortress and a tomb, riding upon the corpse of a dead god. The whispers of the One in the Void never ceased, and Vlaakith's palace rose above it like a parasite clinging to the hope of divinity. This was the legacy she left her people. Not freedom, not destiny fulfilled, but endless servitude. The Githyanki were bound to her will as surely as they were bound to their pact with their dragons. They could conquer across the astral sea, But at home, they lived beneath her shadow, free in name, but chained in truth. History remembers cycles. The Gith cast off chains of the Illithid only to bend beneath the tyranny of their own queen. The promise of liberation twisted into empire, into hunger, into worship of a lich who would be divine. The wheel turned, and in that turn lay tragedy. And so the astral sea drifts on, silent and endless. Tu'narath rides upon the corpse of a god, a citadel of conquest and decay. Within its heart, Vlaakith remains upon her throne of bones, unyielding, undying, consuming her champions in pursuit of a wish, and her people none the wiser. The Githyanki once shattered their chains in fire and psychic screams. Yet history turned, and in that turning, new chains were forged. Their freedom remains unfinished, their rebellion incomplete. So long as Vlaakith reigns, the wheel does not break. It only turns again. But wheels require a hub, and a debt requires a debtor. As we look at the hallowed throne of Tu'narath, one must wonder, who is truly paying the price for the red dragons? Left a thought on this in the comments, a contradiction in the pact that doesn't quite add up. I'd love to hear your theories there. Thank you for watching.